Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. This is the next part of the Lohmann Diesel engine rebuild. If you haven't watched the video where I take it apart, I would advise you to do that because otherwise you won't know why I'm at this stage. But I took the engine apart in the previous video. I did some stuff wrong that resulted in that I destroyed some bushings that are made of some special material. I realized bronze, I think it's called, but it's oil impregnated. You can maybe see it. That's going to be difficult, but it is. There's oil in here, so it actually is self-lubricating. I used quite a lot of time to get these, and it wasn't possible to get the correct ones. A viewer of the channel, the owner of Doris, actually helped me because I found them in Sweden, and the shop didn't want to send the stuff to Denmark, so I had to send it through the the world. But I got some. And it's two bushings. One of the bushings that I destroyed was this one. The reason why I destroyed it was I tried to push the shaft through without removing the key, so it just wrecked it. I found a pretty close match to this one. I bought two of them. It's this one. It's the same dimensions except the outer ring right here, but it's not that important. The important bit is in here and the depth. So what I did is I took one of them and put it into this, and took this screw and put that on, and then tighten it up. That would censor this one. Then I could put this in a drill, and then slowly I could sand this area down. You're not supposed to machine this, or you can machine them, but you need special tools. But I don't really see any problems with the method that I did. So I have turned this down a little bit so it fits the flange on the engine casing. So that's that. The other one was this one. It's just a plain bushing. I found this one that is the exact same dimensions, where the inner dimensions is the same and the outer dimensions is the same, but it is slightly higher. So what I did was using my skill sander and then just did like this. Until it was the same size. And then I'm gonna deburr the edges in here. I hope this will work. I don't see any problems with it. But yeah, this is done now. They are ready to go. It's time to reassemble the Lohmann Diesel. So I am getting ready to make this into a very, very tiny diesel engine with variable compression. It's such a fun engine. I'm gonna start by taking this, and we're gonna have to remove the old bearing shell in there, or outer ring. So let's do that. It's gonna be hard to find, but I found it. Okay, so let's tap this one out. I'm gonna heat up the casing a little bit just to make it expand, making it easier to remove the steel ring, which will expand slower. Out, I hope. There we go, it's out. And then I'm gonna insert that locking ring again, because that is the stop for the new bearing. And then I'm gonna take the new bearing, remove the actual balls, and then install this one. It's important to install it the right way so it actually fits in there. And then I'm gonna do the same trick as before, heat it up a little bit. Like so, and then install this ring. And just tap it the rest of the way. There we go, it's in. And this one is ready to be dropped in there as well. But it needs to go on the camshaft firstly. Crankshaft, of course. Then we need to fit the homemade bushings in here, so I'm gonna heat that up once again. And then install the bushing. There we go. And the other one, just gonna give it some heat again. There we go. And then the oil control ring I found by just measuring the old one. The old one was a little bit different, but this is the same size, so it should work. There we go. Nice and snug. And then I can go ahead and install the shaft. I'm just going to lube it up to avoid ripping the seal and just giving it something to start on with the assembly oil. And I'm going to fit that through right there. And then I'm going to install that key for the drive pulley. And then I'm going to install that wheel like so. And then the very, very cool Continental drive pulley goes over that like so. And then this one like that. A locking ring and a bolt. Just going to nip it up with this. And on the other side I also need to fit the key. And then this sprocket. And then that locking ring. Like that. So next up I want to install the other crankshaft bearing in this shell. This is the one that got a little bit mangled, but it will be fine. Okay, so I'm trying to remove the outer ring of this bearing. I have tried heating it in an oven because this is aluminum, this is steel. This will expand faster than the steel, so in theory when I put it into the oven like this, it should expand and the ring should fall out, but it's not working. I have actually tried quite a bit. What I'm going to do now is to weld across right there. That will heat this area up a lot, which makes it expand, and then when it cools down it will contract, making the ring a little bit smaller than it is now. I really hope that works, because if not, then I'm a bit out of luck, because I cannot get anything underneath there. And yeah, we're just gonna have to try. And I did a couple of welds more. I forgot to switch on the gas on the last one, but it doesn't really matter. But I think now should be. It is moving a little bit, but I'm having a hard time getting it all the way out. So now I'm just going to use some freeze spray, and hopefully that will do the rest of the trick. Only going to freeze the metal ring, or attempt to only freeze that. I'm prying behind here. I'm going to score the surface back here, but it won't really matter too much. But being careful not to crack anything. Yeah, that was easy. There we go, it's up. And yeah, I did damage the back of this quite a lot, but it doesn't matter. I just need to clean it up, of course, but the actual sealing surface or the bearing surface is just fine. I wish I had a better way to do that. To remove this, because this was really not clean. Once again I will heat it up. Then drop it in. Like that. And this is the crankshaft assembly and the piston. I'm changing the piston rings. I'm not changing the piston, and it is a bit worn and scratched. I really hope it doesn't matter too much. Otherwise I will just have to change it later down, but I don't think it will matter. It doesn't have any high points or anything like that, so I think it will be fine. And the bearing down here, the needle bearing in here, seems fine. So that's good. So I just need to remove the old bearings. So this time I'm going to give this some freeze spray to make it shrink as much as possible, and then put on the bearing. There we go. That's one side. So I'm just trying to remove the old bearing. Like that. And then I can put a new bearing on that. Gonna use some freeze spray to cool it down. That will shrink it slightly, making it a bit easier to get it on. I just decided not to use my press today because it's a good challenge. There we go. That was pretty easy. And once again, I'm just going to lube it up a little bit. And then I can go ahead and install it in this side. And then amazingly, someone is making gaskets for this engine, which is nice. It's not complicated shapes, of course, so making them yourself wouldn't be too hard. But someone made them, so I bought them. Yeah, like so. And then the other half of this, like this. And it's still spinning just fine. And then we're going to put some screws into that. I really hope this engine is going to work. I love this little diesel contraption. And getting one to work correctly and nicely, or as good as it gets, would be fun. It would be fun to go on moped trips on this one in the summer. Like that. Switch to the other side. I'm just going to loop the bearing up a little bit more in here. Sounds nice. And then it's time to install this. This is another thing that I slightly wrecked when I took it apart. I had to, or I didn't have to, but I grabbed it with a plier, not thinking that it would matter much, because this is a left-handed thread. There's nothing really to grab onto. But this is, of course, running in a bearing. For some reason, I overlooked that in the video. The bearing is right there. It's one that I'm not going to change because it's very special and it works. So what I've done is I have sanded the marks down so it's completely flush up here. And it now spins in that bearing with no issues. So that's good. But let's try to install that. I'm going to lock the fly wheel with a screwdriver. And I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to do this up tight. It is anti-clockwise, so I presume it will tighten itself up when it's running, but still, you don't want it to come loose. But what I can do is I can put this one duplicate clip on, tighten that up. And then with the crank locked, I can give it a couple of taps. I think that will be good enough. I hope. I really hope. Then we can actually lock this part of the engine in. But that will be tomorrow. It's late. See you later. And I had to take a step back. I forgot something very important. I just removed the wheel I just put on. The good thing about that is it turned out to be pretty difficult to get off, so I'm not worried about it coming loose if I do it the same way. But I forgot the oil seal down here on the crankshaft. And it would have not, I don't think it would have been able to run without it. And if it would have just eat all the oil and burn out completely. So it's quite important to fit this one. I hope I can do it without removing the other sprocket. Yep. Oh, that was lucky because it's not impossible to take off, but it's a bit complicated. So this is nice. The lip seals right and all that. And then I can put this one back on. Yeah, that's just the way it is sometimes. And we need to fit the gasket. right there. And then there's a little spacer ring in here. That's an easy one to lose, but I didn't. I'm a little bit puzzled about this hole because it's not there on the crank casing, and it seems as though there has been a bolt in there. I don't understand that, but well, it's not there, so it must be seeing things. So there we go. The engine casing is back together. Next up, I got two nice piston rings that I want to fit. There we go, that was one. I'm terrified of snapping them because they are hard to get. And I don't have a tool for this kind of sizes. It's very tiny piston. 18cc engine. There we go, it's in. Nice. I'm gonna loop this up using some 2-stroke oil now. And then find the gasket for this area. Just cutting the other gasket flush, like that. Okay, so this gasket doesn't fit at all. Okay, so this gasket doesn't fit, so that's most likely for the other Lohmann Diesel that I got. There are slight differences. I need to clean this up also, but as you can see, it doesn't fit up here. But all the other holes fit, so I'm just going to cut a piece of paper of the same size just to put on here to avoid cracking or bending in this area. The seal is down here, so it wouldn't really matter. So I'm just going to do that. Like that. I'm just going to let it settle for a bit. And we also have to fit this inside of that, because this is the actual sleeve for the engine. I'm going to use assembly grease for that also. We're going to slide that in. And then we got two small metal cylinders that fits in there and there to keep it from spinning. I'm just going to loop it a little bit liberal now on the inside. Now I think we can join the two parts. It's going easier than I thought it would. Like this, like that. And then we are back. You might see a change in lighting. It is a slightly different time of day. I had something to do. And then we need to put this one in. I might change the cables at one point, but not this time. By the way, I don't think it's necessary to mention, but this is not a complete guide to how to rebuild these engines, because I don't know how to do it. I'm just attempting, because that's the way I have learned all that I know. Trial and error. But sometimes it's an error. So my advice is to wait until I actually am driving this moped with this engine before attempting to do the same as I did, at least. So with that in place, I have also tested that the engine actually spins, and it does, and there is compression for sure. I hope everything is as it is supposed to be. Next up, let's fit that exhaust, if you can call it that. And then it's time to install the carburetor, which is not really a carburetor but a dripper. I have cleaned that inside, made sure that everything works. There's a needle in there, and then you just drip fuel in with that. It's adjustable, but I haven't adjusted anything just yet, because maybe it's as it is supposed to be, who knows. So let's install that. Oops, that's wrong. Oops. Then the air filter. Can't remember if that goes forward or back. I think it's back. Like that. Like that. So this is it. The small 18cc variable compression diesel engine is back together. I need to fill it with oil. I need to fit it to the frame, and then I can test it. That will be in a future video. But hopefully it works. It was very interesting to rebuild because it's not possible to get parts for this very easily. A lot of measuring was done, but that's part of the fun. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one, where this one hopefully smokes a lot and produces a little bit of power.